You know, maybe this is just sort of a suggestion, but in my little feeble mind, it almost is a choice between, we've got this budget problem, and we're either gonna solve it by raising taxes or by cutting services. Now, that's a very binary way to look at it and probably way too black and white. But it helps people focus on it, just to say, well, okay, if we were gonna do it by raising taxes alone, how much would that median household of $55,000 in Illinois, whatever it is, how much would their taxes go up if all we were gonna do was raise taxes? And then on the other hand is, what if we didn't raise taxes at all and all we did was cut things? What would have to be cut? I think that would be an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah. Well, the reality is, first of all, because our budget situation has gotten so much worse in the past 9 months, the answer is you need a combination of both. You need a balanced approach. You just can't cut your way out of it, and you certainly can't tax your way out of it. I think most people, you know, I think have always believed.
Fundamentally understand.
Yeah, I think you've got to have a combination of both, because both sides are too much of the extremes. So that's part of the compromise, finding some middle ground. Even Governor Rauner has now indicated that revenue has to be part of the picture. So there's an acknowledgement now that has to be part of discussion.
Well, that's a step in the right direction.
Right, but he wants other things in his political agenda as part of you know, preconditions for him talking about the budget, and that's where the stalemate is. It's not about budget numbers and coming to an agreement as far as spending and revenue. Right. It's about ideology. It's about politics. Those are harder things to resolve. So we need a combination of both. But I said both sides really are not that far apart when it comes to budget numbers. Like I said, when the tax rate dropped, we lost $4 billion in revenue. So the governor proposed a budget back in February. It was roughly $3 billion imbalanced. The General Assembly passed a budget later that May with about $4 billion unbalanced, all right? Both sides' spending plans are pretty similar. Both sides had cuts to programs. Remarkably, the spending programs were pretty similar. So here you can see the broad outline of budget agreement. You know, both sides have a relative idea as far as how much revenue it would take, because the governor's plan was unbalanced, and so was the General Assembly plan, and you have somewhat of an agreement on the spending priorities. So you have a broad outline of agreement. We can have this resolved tomorrow. It was just about adding up the budget numbers. But, as I said, it's about ideology and it's about politics. The ideology is his political agenda. A lot of things that deal with collective bargaining rights for workers, policies that I think lower wages. Personally, I don't think that leads to economic development. Personally, I don't think that's what we need as a state to move forward. That's the governor's political agenda. We have divided government. We got to find ways to compromise on that political agenda. I understand that. And I think there are ways for both sides to claim victories. But I also said it's about politics. It's about politics because we have an election coming up next year. And frankly, both sides are trying to get leverage out of a budget impasse, a budget disagreement, to point blame at the other side, or to posture themselves as, you know, our way is a better way. This will give us an advantage in the 2016 election. Sure. And that's, unfortunately, in my opinion, it's not about the budget, it's about ideology and politics. That's the stalemate, and those are harder things to resolve.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so much like Washington. At least what I'm looking at, when I understand Washington much better than I do Springfield, so I just love this conversation. But it does seem like this is just the rise of the ideologues that they've decided that if we can only destroy the unions and it'll all get better. Well, how much weaker do these guys got to get? You know what I'm saying?
It's like 12% of the workforce.
I mean, yeah, it used to be 30%. Well, why isn't it 20% better now that you've busted them all up? Yeah. I just don't know that eradicating unions is definitely the answer. There's probably some work that you can do within that regard. I mean,
I said there are areas to compromise. But, you know, taking people's collective bargaining rights away, which the governor wants to do for teachers and
well, kind of like the guy in Wisconsin.
Right, right. That is a much more a fundamental issue that is harder to resolve. I mean, there are many Republicans that don't agree with taking collective bargaining rights away from employees. But, you know, you mentioned Washington, D.C. style politics, and I think you kind of hit it right on the head with that. It's not so much about forging a compromise. It's about putting obstruction in place. It's about posturing for the next election. Nothing moves. You have stalemates. As we know in Washington D.C., nothing's been happening for years, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And
it's
so
about breaking something and then blaming the other side.
right. And then I think, in a way, that's what we've seen in Springfield the past 9 months. It's not a matter about let's get people together, hash out our differences. It's about it's their fault. They're to blame. That's all we've been hearing the past 9 months. So there's no effort to try to govern. It's more about staying on the campaign trail. Unfortunately, there's some similarities from what has happened in Washington, D.C. and kind of what we're seeing in Springfield right now.
Oh my gosh, you know what? It just popped in my head. A while back, you guys were talking about the budget, and there was like, it was like a campaign ad that was coming out.
Yeah, it was an ad.
Yeah, it was a campaign
We're discussing the
ad.
budget.
And it was the People for Responsible Illinois or something, and then you look behind it, it's like Governor Router and like two of his buddies. That's all there was in this People for the Responsible Illinois. I don't know if that was even the name of it.
There's a number
But
of
it was
groups
just
associated
ridiculous.
with that. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, it's not even an election year. Why am I seeing a campaign commercial?
Yeah, in May is when we tried to negotiate a budget.
Yeah.
And instead of being at the table, there were negative TV commercials on the air, there were negative mailers being sent in individual lawmakers' districts. So you're right, instead of sitting down, negotiating a budget, already the negative attack ads have taken place, and that's
It was
very,
a political style ad.
that's very Washington DC style politics.